Welcome to Techstination. Joining us is Tara Walpert Levy, Vice President of YouTube at Google. Thank you for joining us, Tara.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Well, we're talking about what happened during the Super Bowl. We know who won the game, but there's lots of other analytics going on here. Oh, who won the most searched for category on YouTube? Give us the overview of what was going on YouTube.
Sure. Well, listen, YouTube really has folks watching both the highlights and the interviews and the content around the game, and also, perhaps most importantly, the ads. So there's enough interest in the ads that we actually put all of the Super Bowl ads together on youtube.com/adlet. So folks can go back and view if they missed it, watch again if they want to view it again. And what we saw from yesterday was that the most viewed ads on game day were really ads that brought a laugh, right? The comedy won the day, and I guess if you think about what people were doing, parties, socializing, that makes a lot of sense. So the top ad by viewership yesterday was actually the Amazon Before Alexa ad, the one with Ellen DeGeneres and Portia de Rossi, and followed by Facebook's Ready to Rock ad, and then Jeep Groundhog Day with Brill Murray. I will say I'm somewhat partial to number 4, which is the Hyundai Smart Pack ad. I'm from Boston, so I feel like I can give that a whirl. But comedy clearly across the board was driving the engagement yesterday, and what will be interesting is to see if that trend holds today and as the week goes on, given how many powerful and touching ads were also in the game and seem to get a very positive reception online.
Yeah, I was going to say, people love to laugh, but Google made us cry.
Well, hopefully in a good way, and I think it's a beautiful ad, and we've gotten very good feedback about it touching people, and that's what we were going for.
And that one was, I guess we could call it "How Not to Forget."
Yeah, I think the actual title is something like that.
and the snack companies, of course, as usual, spent a lot of money, and some of them, I guess, from what I'm reading today, were fairly highly rated, like Cheetos.
Yep, I really like that one. I think that was great. Well, and one thing you will see is the dynamics will move around quite a bit, because today is typically as much or more viewership as yesterday. These are the two hottest days in the cycle. And if you look sort of pre and post a week, you do see shifts in the patterns in viewership. And so I think for folks who want to follow along or just watch some of the ads, going to youtube.com/adblitz will keep you current on what's most popular. And I agree, some of those snack ads were very good.
Now, I guess there's a lot of strategy involved in ad placement, where in the game you want your ad to run. This year, I guess advertisers were fortunate in that the game was pretty close, almost all the way through.
I think that's right. And look, I think one of the things that helps with the gamesmanship around that now is the fact that so much of the engagement is happening even beyond the television online, and that extends your timeline really, again, sort of earlier and later, such that hopefully you get the hottest moment in the game. But if you don't, you still are able to attract serious attention throughout that window, irrespective of what folks are doing in one quarter or another.
And a lot of people who may not have a great interest in the game or even know much about football like to watch the Super Bowl for the ads. They don't even have to watch that anymore, I guess, because of YouTube.
I think that's right, although I think, you capture an audience that is sort of middle of the road. They wouldn't necessarily go to YouTube and only watch ads, but they enjoy them in the Super Bowl. And frankly, I think you get the double whammy of folks who might not have come just for that per se, but watching them with a group in an environment, a couple of them pop for them, and then they go check that out, and then they got drawn into more. And it's really a surround sound strategy that we see driving huge interest and continued viewership. I'm actually pretty surprised. We've seen 50% increase in viewership of the ads on game day for the last couple of years. And even this year, even after all of that, it still grew another 30%. So clearly the appetite for this ad content remains unchecked.
Is it good for companies to release their ads before the game, days before?
Typically it is, and that's why you see most brands doing that now. They get to build some momentum And you've seen some folks have evolved to a strategy of they'll launch teaser ads leading up to the big game and then have their full ad there. And I think we have seen that is useful for capturing attention and then driving ongoing awareness and consideration after that. So typically, yes, a multi-week strategy works best. And folks have taken different angles on whether that's putting up the actual Super Bowl ad beforehand or teaser ads leading up.
Do we know how much was spent on the ad time this year?
It's a good question. I don't know. I'm sure a lot of people are investing a lot of money, which is why this multi-platform strategy, I think, is so important because it helps them make the most of that investment.
And not only the investment in the ad time, but I guess in creating these ads, I mean, this is
Absolutely.
It's a really big deal.
Definitely. And by the way, I was very happy to see, I think we've had some shaky years in recent years past, and I thought this year overall was just very strong for the ad group overall.
What about the game itself and the things surrounding the game? Interesting search results there?
Well, so I think you see a couple things. One, you absolutely see the searches for players. And to your point about quarters, I'd be willing to bet that it was the fourth quarter that put Patrick Mahomes over Jimmy Garoppolo in terms of the most searched players during the game. But they were definitely the top two. And they were rounded out by a series of the wide receivers from both teams. So that was interesting. I think also the searches during the game reflected people's interest in who was winning, what was the score, who won, et cetera, which you might expect. The two things that surprised me a little bit were, one, there was a big pop in searches for how many Super Bowls the Chiefs had won. And I assume that's related to the fact that they ended up winning their first in 50 years, and so folks were just checking on, had this been done before? The other thing that was fascinating was the other search that popped into the top 5 was who performed at halftime. And I think it just shows that there's always opportunities to connect with more people because I would have presumed that Shakira and J-Lo were pretty universally recognizable. And yet, again, lots of folks looking at maybe some of them weren't watching the game, who knows. But I think it just speaks to why so many brands look so broadly to try to connect with people because everyone has opportunity for greater awareness and engagement.
They did manage to shake things up. What about the political ads? Do people like to see politics enter this event?
Well, I think it'll be really interesting to see this trend around some of the ads that were more purpose-driven or political or touching over the coming week because I thought there were a lot of great spots, especially around female empowerment. I thought that was interesting. And so I think time will tell. I think that they're not as much party ads typically, so we often see comedy talk the day of, but over time we really do see some of those more powerful ads catch up and in some cases surpass. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with this year's crop.
Terrific. And tell us again where people can go to watch all the ads on YouTube.
Absolutely. Go to youtube.com/adblitz and enjoy the ads and the trends that are happening there. If you're more curious, by the way, based on what you see, you can also check out google.com/trends for all sorts of search trends surrounding the big game.
Tara Walpert Levy, thank you so much for taking the time with us.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Now this. How many companies out there have continued to innovate when it comes to building a better radio? I'm Fred Fishkin, host of Techstination, and I'm here to tell you about the new CC Skywave SSB radio from the wonderful people at C. Crane. Bob and his crew really love radio, and it shows in this new compact model that is packed with features. Beyond great AM and FM reception and sound, you can tune into shortwave signals from around the world, listen to ham radio operators, aviation, and more. It's the radio you'll turn to every day, and in emergencies. It will run for nearly 3 days on just 2 AA batteries. Pair the sleep timer with the new Soft Speaker 3, and you've got the perfect radio for your nightstand. Of course, it can wake you up too. Click on C-Crane at Techstination.com and put in the code Techstination for a free flashlight with your order. They love radio, and you'll love C-Crane.